Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your Direct Connection. Just ahead tonight, following up on the climate change conference. What does it mean for the Chesapeake Bay? But first tonight, from rising seas to rising prices, surging inflation is hitting Marylanders from the gas pump to the grocery store. How long will this continue? Joining us to answer your questions tonight is economist Anirban Basu, chairman of the SAGE Policy Group. Dr. Basu, thank you for joining us. Your price for this interview has not gone up. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was zero the last time I was with you. It's still zero, so no inflation there.
Excellent. Deal of the century. When you look at the world of inflation, what measure of inflation do you look at, and what are you seeing out there?
Well, the most common inflation measure is probably the consumer price index. Overall inflation by that measure up 6.2%. between October of last year and October of this year. But if you're in construction, materials prices are up 20% over the past year. So it depends really upon what you're interested in. But every measure of inflation that we have, whether it's core consumer price or overall consumer price or whatever it happens to be, there is significant price pressure in the economy.
Long time since we've seen numbers like this.
Yeah, in terms of consumer inflation, as people know, more than 30 years. The last time we saw an inflation number like October's was 31 years ago, 1990. But really, this inflation period has already been a sustained one. And the last time people can probably remember a period of sustained inflation like this is probably in the early 1980s.
Once something like this gets rolling, can it be self-reinforcing? In other words, people are paying higher prices, so they're going to ask for a raise. And they're going to deserve a raise. And then the company, whatever the employer is going to try to raise its prices to make up for it. And then people are going to pay more for their goods or services, and they're going to want raises, and so forth. Does it become its own trap at some point?
Yes, that's exactly right. So people are trying very hard to pass along these price increases. So if you're a business and you're paying more for steel or natural gas or iron ore or whatever it happens to be, well, your production costs are up. Your workers have also become more expensive. And so to the best of your ability, you're trying to protect your profit margins, and you pass those cost increases along to your customers. And your customers, of course, they're also workers. And so they, in their role as workers, are going to be asking for bigger raises. And so there's a cycle there. And that cycle is now working its way through the economy. So this inflation is not going to go away overnight.
I don't think I've had to pay more than $3.40, something like that for gasoline. You see other parts of the country, maybe other parts of Maryland, where it's getting up closer to $4, which has always seemed to be sort of a break point where, for psychological reasons, maybe it seems like you're paying too much for gas.
Yes, and I think for folks who buy premium out there, one day I bought premium. As it turns out, I have a Ford Mustang, so she gets whatever she wants, and she wants premium. So I paid in Columbia, Maryland, $4.53 per gallon. And so, yes, in some cases, people have probably been paying more than $4 a gallon, depending upon what they buy and where they buy it. So that probably is too much for gasoline, certainly psychologically. Nowhere else is a price so largely portrayed, meaning, gasoline prices are fixated high in the air in large signs. Everywhere else they're barcoded. So people really get a chance to look at gasoline prices and how they're moving, and they're noticing that these gasoline prices are sky high at this point.
You do need to be very careful shopping for gasoline in Columbia, Maryland, because I know the area well. There's a few spots where there's a single gas station in like a village center. It would make a great economics paper on competitive environments, because when there's no competition for miles around, you can see some pretty high prices. Let me remind our viewers, if you care to join the conversation, if you have an egregious example to report of some price going up, let us know at the number on the screen, or email us at livequestions@mpt.org. Dr. Basu, let's talk about the role of the Fed and the federal government in this inflation. We know the Federal Reserve officials have been trying to stimulate inflation. We had a crisis. They're always scared of deflation, which we can talk about. What's the rationale for them having tried to get prices to go up?
Right. For a long time, as it turns out in this country, pre-pandemic, there was a struggle to keep inflation at that 2% target. Inflation often fell below that 2% target. And while that doesn't sound horrible, deflation presents its own set of issues. During the pandemic, the goal has been very different. It's been trying to stimulate economic activity, really counteract the effects of the pandemic. So the goal has been really to live with inflation, maybe even above 2%, if that means that more people will get jobs, unemployment will fall faster, so on and so forth. So for a time being, at least, the Federal Reserve appears to have abandoned its 2% inflation target. And so we're at 6.2% inflation, consumer price inflation, and yet the Federal Reserve is keeping the interest rates it controls, those short-term rates, very, very low, and they remain broadly accommodative. So the Federal Reserve has changed, and that it'll be interesting to see what the Federal Reserve does going forward, because this inflation appears quite sticky and not particularly transitory.
And they're still printing money, figuratively speaking, to buy Treasury bonds, and they're talking about tapering that over the next year or so.
And they will do that. So up until now, they've been purchasing $120 billion in fixed income assets, basically U.S. Treasuries and collateralized mortgage-backed securities, all with the goal of keeping the interest rates that we encounter low. So anyone who's out there right now trying to buy a home, they're probably frustrated because they can't find a home to buy necessarily. The inventory is low, but at least mortgage rates are really favorable. And the Federal Reserve has worked really hard to keep those interest rates at which we transact, those levels, really, really low. And it has worked. Interest rates are low. But also, while stimulating economic activity, that's one of the many reasons that we have more inflation now than we're accustomed to.
Email question from a viewer. Anthony writes, the Medicare Part B premium is going to increase by $21, eroding a high percentage of the Social Security cost of living adjustment for retirees. Couple that with high inflation hitting retirees hard. Would Dr. Basu comment on this?
Well, that's exactly right. So, if you're still in the workforce, you can ask for a raise. And you've probably heard that the so-called quits rate, the rate at which Americans quit their jobs, has been at record highs recently. So a lot of people have been quitting their current jobs and finding another one, often with better pay. But if you're already retired, you're on a fixed income probably, your cost of living is rising rapidly. Social Security gains are being offset, as this viewer has pointed out, by Medicare Part B, the increase in that cost. And so it's really problematic, of course. And so what tends to happen is people cut back on consumption. They purchase less meat, they drive less, they don't take a vacation, so on and so forth. And that's one of the reasons that consumer sentiment in this country is quite low right now.
The next national election, federal election, is a year from now. If you're the party in power and you know that this is becoming an issue for the public, you want to get inflation under control within the next year, but you don't want to cause a recession, which is the way you typically control inflation. So what can you do?
Oh, it's very, very difficult, because this inflation is not just an American circumstance. In other words, we're seeing inflation around the world. Global supply chains are in disarray. We see ongoing economic lockdowns in China, Malaysia, Vietnam, Austria, other parts of the world. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And so a lot of this inflation is being imported to our shores. So there's only so much that a party in power or the government can do to forestall this inflation. One thing you can do, of course, is to hold back on federal spending. But of course, right now, the appetite in Washington, at least among some policymakers, is actually to accelerate federal spending. And of course, we just got that infrastructure package passed. If anything, that's probably a bit inflationary. So one thing to do is, I think, just campaign and say, look, this inflation is transitory. It's going to go away. We know you're suffering right now, but at least there are lots of jobs available, and you should be happy about that.
Do you believe it's transitory? That's the buzzword at the Fed.
Well, I don't think it's as transitory as many people at the Federal Reserve have believed. But I think that, and this is going to sound very naive to many of your viewers, I think much of this inflation, in fact, is transitory. Here's what I mean. We shut down the economy globally. In this country, we shut it down in March and April of last year. And what happened is a lot of enterprises shut down key parts of their capacity. They laid off workers, they closed sawmills, they shut down factories, they mothballed ships. They didn't necessarily realize that the economy would enter recession in February of last year, but by May of last year, the recession was over. So the recession only lasted about a couple of months. And so all of a sudden, demand was surging, stimulus was surging, of course, stimulus payments to people, demand was surging as a result, and we're reopening the economy. And all of a sudden, this capacity needed to be brought back to life, and it was difficult to do that. And this has been a global situation. So demand is high, supply is truncated. What you get really high prices and shortages of goods. Now, as we get more vaccinated around the world, these supply chain disruptions, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, Austria, so on and so forth, will abate, and you will see this inflation come down. But it's not as transitory as the Federal Reserve thinks, and I don't think that we'll get to 2% inflation, the Federal Reserve target, anytime soon. Certainly not by next year, I would think, based on my modeling.
Let's take a phone call from Frederick County. This is Peter. Thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that all of these specialized products from overseas, like, for example, Greek feta cheese, Parmesan cheese from Italy, chorizos from Spain, all those like specialized items, they've really gone up in price. Is it more the supply chain of coming into the country, or is it tariffs, and what can be done to...
Great, sir, that's a great question, a great example. You can buy American, but let's get Dr. Basu's comment.
Well, that's right. So that's part of the global supply chain issue. So a number of things have happened. So again, in a lot of these European countries, for instance, I mean, Spain, for instance, that's an economy that shrank 11% last year, in large measure because they locked down really aggressively because of the pandemic. Similar things happen throughout Europe. And so those products coming from Europe, there are shortages. There have been supply chain disruptions. And on top of that, transportation costs are sky high because oil prices are high, natural gas prices are high. We don't have enough truck drivers in this country. We have a shortage of 80,000 truck drivers in this country. So everywhere you look along the supply chain, there is shortage and disruption. And ultimately, that translates into emptier store shelves and higher prices. And that's what we're living through right now.
You know, 60 Minutes last night had a nice story about what's happening at the Port of Long Beach in Southern California, where there are 100 or more cargo ships anchored off in the ocean. They can't unload fast enough. It just sounds like gridlock at the port there. We talked on Friday to the gentleman who runs the privatized Seagirt Marine Terminal. No such issues here. In fact, the Port of Baltimore getting some overflow traffic out of L.A., vessels diverting to the East Coast instead. Sounds like an example of just, things ramping up too quickly, maybe.
I think that that's right. So a lot of us have a tendency to talk about supply chain disruptions and focus on the supply side issues of the economy. But demand for various goods and services, but let's talk about goods, is much higher than it was pre-pandemic. If you look at retail sales today, retail sales economy-wide are much higher than they were in February of 2020, just as the pandemic was beginning. And so even under the best of circumstances, we probably would have seen more inflation, but of course, we're not operating under the best of circumstances. So one of the underappreciated aspects of this inflationary spiral is that demand for goods is so high. And that's going to, of course, continue for the months to come, especially because now we're in the core of the holiday shopping season.
Excellent email question here. Viewer says, stop blaming inflation on wages. A living wage is a right and will beget spending in the community as people have more money. It helps everyone. I hope neither of us meant to blame individuals for any of this. I mean, these are big global economic forces.
That's exactly right. We've mostly been focused on global supply chain disruptions, not wage inflation. But that said, wage inflation is real and it is inflationary. So businesses are looking to maximize profits. They're looking to protect margins. That's what they do. It's a capitalistic economy. And so when wages rise or other costs rise, healthcare costs, whatever it happens to be, materials prices, they're going to try to pass along those cost increases to their customers. And so that's part of the inflationary story. Not to say that rising wages are a bad thing, but are they inflationary? They are.
Phone call from Anne Arundel County. This is Remy or Remy. Thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. A quick couple of questions for you. As I'm trying to understand how it is that this is a short-term solution to a long-term problem that we built up. And I'll go back to the Bush-Cheney administration when we went into Iraq, Afghanistan, and we've run up a $29 trillion national debt. This has got to have something to do with where we are right now, and we keep adding to that national debt. At what point does it get to where we actually have to say, we have an implosion that's imminent, we need to do something that's going to turn this around? Are there any answers to that?
Sir, thank you for the question, which reminds me, Dr. Basu, we've talked before. I recall you used to have a fondness for gold. Still the case?
Oh, absolutely. By the way, gold trading at $1,865 an ounce as I got on today. You know, it's been rising recently, a hedge against inflation. Obviously, Bitcoin has been rising as well as a hedge against financial crisis. So a number of assets that people purchase for defensive reasons because they think that there's global financial turmoil either happening currently or that's imminent or prospective. A lot of those assets have been rising in price. But, you know, the viewer is right. I mean, you know, the caller is right. You know, we came into this crisis with a $23.5 trillion national debt as the pandemic was beginning. We're now close to $29 trillion. And, you know, obviously, you know, 3 major stimulus packages last year, the CARES Act, for instance, signed by Donald Trump on March 27th, and then 2 packages after that. The Consolidated Appropriations Act, for instance, signed on December 27th, and then the Biden package, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, signed by Joe Biden this year on March 11th, and now we get infrastructure. So when you have all that federal spending, and I'm not arguing against that federal spending, by the way, we've been in a crisis, infrastructure is important, but it increased the size of the national debt, and will continue to, and at some point, we Americans are probably going to have a problem.
Anirban Basu is chairman of the SAGE Policy Group. We really appreciate your sharing some SAGE information with us tonight. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And now to the UN Climate Conference. More promises to slow global warming, but is it enough to make a difference? We spoke with Dr. Hallie Kilborn at the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory of the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science.
I have not seen this level of activity or involvement really previously in previous summits like this.
How well do you think people understand the problem? And I mean the world leaders, but also average citizens.
I think that really depends on where you are, and different groups of people are obviously more informed than others. And I think in this country, we're sort of, I think more people are understanding the dangers and recognizing it because they're experiencing things that have been predicted for many years. And so when we experience extreme events, it brings home the idea that if we have more frequent extreme events, this could become a problem.
And you just experienced some of this down in Solomons, right?
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, we had a coastal flooding event where we had the sea level rose, and because of winds coming up the bay and some king tides all coincided at once, and we had some flooding. A lot of us here at work had to wade home, and because some roads were flooded, we couldn't get our cars through.
Well, so let's think about how that is different than if you had had a similar storm maybe 50 years ago. It's because the starting point, the sea level of the Chesapeake Bay there is starting from, I don't know, 6-8 inches higher. Is that right?
Yeah, so over the 20th century, we saw about a foot of sea level rise in the Chesapeake Bay. And so 50 years ago, it might have been, the water would have been 6 inches lower during that same event. And so I would have been able to get my car out, but it was just a little too deep to drive through on the road in that event. And so that's exactly what the problem of climate change and related sea level rise is that increased baseline causes events that sort of are unusual to begin with to basically make a bigger dent, a bigger impact.
The worry is that what's happened over the 20th century is going to continue happening in the 21st century. And a layman's understanding is that we're just pumping a lot of carbon dioxide and other things into the atmosphere and trapping heat. Is that right?
Yeah, that's essentially what's going on. That's the fundamental problem.
What would it take to turn that around?
We need to stop putting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So it's going to involve relatively small changes on the part of everyday citizens all over the world, but it's also going to mean some fairly large changes in the way our economy is structured.
So I think everybody watching feels like we're doing our part to make little changes. LED light bulbs, solar cells, home-based industrial solar farms, wind turbines all over the place. Should we feel good about that? Is it actually making a difference in terms of, you know, planet has one atmosphere? How much is it really helping?
Well, I mean, obviously, one person is not a large contributor in and of themselves, but the small changes that we make are relatively not impactful. But together, we have 7 billion people on Earth, and if we all do a little bit, it actually makes a huge difference. And we see that in our own economy has somewhat decoupled from carbon emissions, where GDP has risen in recent years, but our emissions have not risen. So it really does, those little things that we have been doing have caused some fundamental changes in our systems.
You mentioned global population, and you know, it's 7 billion. It used to be 3 billion. I think about the Chesapeake Bay, which we can talk about, having a headwind from the number of people who keep moving into the Bay watershed. I mean, it's a great place to live. We have more and more people. That means more and more people doing things, driving, more sewage to process. It's sort of, I think of it as being a headwind long-term for the Bay. Is global population a headwind for climate change?
I mean, certainly global populations are a major driver. If you have more people, you have more economic activity, you have more fossil fuel use if that economy is based on fossil fuels. So we need to both pull away from those economic structures that lead us to be using fossil fuels. So hopefully we can sustain a reasonable population.
Yeah, you know, in reading about the climate summit, you see the number 1.5 degrees Celsius, and I gather it's kind of seen as a tipping point. If I mean, the planet's going to keep warming, right? There's nothing we can do today that's going to turn it around tomorrow, and the hope is that over time we're able to, like, what do they say in the beginning of the pandemic about managing the curve or flattening the curve or something? Is that what we're trying to do? And is there something magical about that 1.5 number?
Well, we are trying to flatten the curve. We're trying to flatten the curve of warming and flatten the curve of greenhouse gas emissions. And there's nothing absolutely magical about 1.5 or 2 for that matter. But every small increment in mean shifts the frequency of extreme events many more times that. So we might see those coastal flooding events that happened a couple weeks ago here, maybe 5 or 6 times more frequently. And if we change from 1.5 to 2, it might be even that much more. So the key is that when we have small changes in mean, we shift those infrequent events many more times that tiny mean shift. The other issue is that we see that there are tipping points in the climate system, in the Earth system as a whole. And so it's a little bit like a teeter-totter. You're tipping that teeter-totter. It might be balanced now. We're putting weights. Those greenhouse gases are little weights. And eventually it's gonna poof into a new system. And here in Maryland, we're susceptible to a couple of those tipping points. We're susceptible to sea level rise from, of course, just melting at the poles, but also tipping points in ocean circulation, where changes in the Gulf Stream can actually cause our sea levels here on the East Coast to rise slightly. So it would be sort of a double whammy of tipping points here.
Talk a little about the whammy we've had so far in the Chesapeake Bay. So temperatures go up, a lot of glaciers melt, you have more water, and sea levels go up. But that's not the only thing. I mean, once the bay is up a foot higher than it used to be, you get more erosion. The water temperature itself changes, and maybe chemistry and the impact on creatures living in the bay.
Yeah, so we end up having ecological impacts when you change the physical system. I mean, and organisms are adapted to their physical environments, and as we change the physical environment, those biological imperatives change too. For instance, blue crabs in the Chesapeake Bay go through a dormancy season in the wintertime now. And actually, research here at UMCS has shown that they may not in the future. If we increase our temperatures, they will likely not go dormant, much like they don't go dormant here right now in the US South.
Wow. So, I think about the crabs burrowing down into the mud, going a little bit south this time of year. You think that stops?
Yeah, it is. If we warm our temperatures enough, they will stop hibernating.
Our thanks to Dr. Kilborn, and that is Direct Connection for this week. We're back Friday with State Circle and the latest on Maryland politics. Join us for that Friday evening at 7. Remember to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at MPT News. And now for all of us at MPT, thanks for watching Direct Connection and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.